So looking at some of your tracks here,
This is an earth spur, so down that track there is only 8.5 acres. So we'd look at that and say, does this really want quite a bit of money in sleepers? You know, it's 250 metres down there, or are we just going to live with that as an earth spur? And so sometimes these few earth spurs that we've got are a bit more challenging in the spring to get down in the autumn, but there's only small parcels of land at the end of these tracks. Most of the main arteries will all be sleepers.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so you've a wood chip.
This here was a particularly wet corner. We use a lot of sort of grade A screened wood chip where we can to fill wet holes. We use it quite a lot around water troughs now. It doesn't last as long as sandstone, but because it's so lightweight, the big chip to deal with, as the troughs naturally after a few years become bogged around the troughs, we just go and tip a small trailer load of wood chip around the edge of the trough. As long as the wood chip doesn't go too high, because we don't want it getting high enough to the point where badgers can then use it as a drinking point. But it's a great quick and easy fix. Like if you've got we've had it before where we desperately want to graze a paddock in the spring, and the gateway has just gone, it's just bottomed out and it's full of water, and we'll just come with a trailer load of wood chip and we can fix it in 20 minutes. And to get a load of sandstone there and move all and flatten it out, it takes quite a lot of work, as you know. And all it takes is one wet hole when they're coming out of the field, and every single udder will come in the parlour soiled.
Okay.
Even though the paddock's been dry as a bone.
Yeah. So it's easily available too, is it locally or something, is it?
Locally, yeah, there's a large contracting firm we work with, and they tend to source it for us and bring it in.
You're not probably overly concerned about the width of the road either, are you? For the number of cows you have,
we're on the limit now as one herd of 500 on single sleepers.
Yeah.
We tend to put the posts half a metre out so the bellies can overhang a bit.
Yeah.
It depends, because some of the farm was built when we only had 200 cows. So it was designed for 200.
Yeah.
So they're all 1.5 hectare paddocks, and then as the farm's got bigger, we've moved into 3, 4, 5 hectare paddocks. But some of the dry areas of the farm, they're actually better segmented into small paddocks. So you can chip away at them in the spring and just only use your dry paddocks when you need them.
In the tough conditions.
Yeah, so you can almost save them like a trump card in a way. So it's really wet today, we're going to nip a bit of dry ground off.
Okay.
I'd go up here onto the top, it's better.
So your railway sleepers are here anyway, obviously.
Yeah.
You went wider here at a kind of a junction?
Yeah, we went wider at the junction, so it's just a nicer turn for them.
Yeah. And say the availability of stone, your reason for using railway sleepers, some of that?
It's all soil here, we're not like in Wales or like New Zealand where there's a big bank of rock, or metal as they call it, you can go at.
Yeah.
So sleepers are the only option for us. I probably would have been a multi-millionaire if I'd stacked them up in a field 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we now pay, what, £10 a sleeper.
Yeah.
Would be a good price bought in, and the digger comes and laid them. But they're still, they're invaluable really for what we've got, for how they've revolutionised the farm.
Yeah. I think it's hard for some people to imagine that there's no stone in areas, but that's just the reality.
Yeah. And then you've got a problem with landlords. They don't want a big hole just digging in their field if it's rented ground. You can't just go and do that. But sole wear is the only issue on them in the autumn. It does wear cows' feet.
Okay.
You've got to be careful of that, yeah.
Okay. And any way of preventing that, or is it just the way it is?
Yeah, some of the lower yielders like going once a day is the only way we can combat that in the back end. You never want to do it because you're always going to lose a bit of milk by doing that, but it's just what we've got to do to get to where we need to be.
Right.
And then we're savage with dry off dates. All heifers have 90 days, all cows have 60. We don't push on in the back end. I'm a big believer in early dry off, big peak, rather than pushing through Christmas and then not peaking the following spring.
I see. Yeah. So gaps then on your road? You've gaps at various points then along?
Yeah, you see just further on down there's obviously a crossover gate, and there'll be an entry, then on some fields there'll be a middle entry, and there'll be an exit gate and then a middle entry and then another entry at the back, so depending on how you're grazing it, we'll move through to make sure there's not too much traffic in all going through that front gate.
Really irritates fencing men. when you get them to fence a block and you say, I want a gateway here, gateway here, gateway here, and it takes some pushing to get them to do it a lot of the time. But once they've done it, it revolutionises things. Yeah.
It's a bit like when you just seen the cows in the previous paddock, because we've got the gateways between the paddocks and conditions like this, and you want larger areas, you can just keep letting them through nicely.
These two are great paddocks in the spring. Great access.
Yeah.
If I was splitting this 2 hectare paddock into 2, I can have a day in the first half, and if it's a bit poached, fence it off, and I can fence them in the back half then, because I've got an exit gate further up.
Yes.
1
trough per paddock then?
In general, some of the newer ground we've took on where we've got bigger paddocks, we've now got 2 troughs per paddock. It's just about, with the water system we've got, just about keeps up with 500 cows. We'll be pushing it any further now, I think, yeah.
Well, ring mains, all concrete troughs. We did have plastic, we got rid of them quite fast.
Why? What was...
Just, well, on the old system it was getting the pressure and they just mauled them to death, pushing them around the fields, especially.
I never get one night. I had to tie the quad bike to a trough for 2 hours just until they finished pushing it round the field, and then I had to come back later because they just kept tipping it over.
Put 50
Yeah.
mil ring mains in now with 32 mil offshoots from rings as well, with all concrete troughs.
That was one guy advised us on this. We did a 50 mil line up the middle, and then we butterflied 32 mil rings off, and that seemed to give us the same pressure as a 50 mil ring, but without the cost of all the 50 mil.
Okay. So it went out and came back in off the same line again, is it?
Yeah, so it was like one big 50 mil line going up through the centre of the farm, and then 32 mil rings off it.
To each trough?
To each trough, yeah.
Okay. Would it dead end at the end of the 50 mil, or...?
The 50 mil was a dead end at the end,
Okay.
And then the 32 mil rings come off it. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But that seems to do fantastic supply. That would keep up with more than 500 cows.
Okay.
And it's pressured up to 7.5 bar with 2 variable speed pumps.
Your water supply, is it a well or mains?
It's a borehole. We've got mains backup.
Yeah.
Should we get stuck? Yeah. And a large tank, holding tank. Yeah.
Okay. One of the biggest things, we put an alarm on the tank as well for when a water leak does happen. It's like a siren, you think the place is burning.
Me and Johnny don't live here, so it gets my dad out of bed at 2 in the morning.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's what he needs. Yeah. That's what he needs. That's good. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it saved our bacon a lot of times, that alarm.
Well, because the alarm's set to a third, because a lot of the time you have a water leak, you wouldn't know until you got nothing in the tank, and then you're backfilling, the cows are waiting on you, and you get a pre-warning now.
If it's 30 degrees and you run out of water,
it's
it'll take you a couple of days to catch up, whereas we never get to that because of the alarm.
How many times a year would that go off? If ever?
3 or 4 maybe, mightn't it?
Yeah.
If you get a leak or something, or for some reason somebody's used more water than they should have washing a yard.
Most commonly it's like when the parlour hose end's blown off in the night.
Something like that.
Yeah,
something
silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
It's just a one wire. In the afternoon when they're on crossing en masse, we'll man it and cross them in case cars are coming up and down this driveway and they're not waiting for long periods. But in the morning when they're just coming up in groups of 24 out of the parlour, they'll cross themselves. Well, through the spring we'll manually cross them until they're trained, and then we'll let them come over on their own. I used to have 5 or 6 wires, but if a cow really wants to walk over that, she will walk over it regardless. You won't stop her. But this is just a good deterrent. Very rarely do they stray, and if they do, it's usually because something spooked them. We're a bit more careful when bulls are in with the cows. We won't let the bulls go till the end.
Okay.
It's quite often a bull will chase a bull and cow, and she'll just do anything she can to get away and then run over the wires. Yeah. But it works well. It negates holding cows back at the farm, and there's just a switch that powers the entire electric box into those wires, and then at the end of milking we turn the wires off and turn the paddock fence on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a driveway to like an old farm / commercial units. It's not a massively busy road, but you still need access for lorries.
I wouldn't do this on a main road because it's just a driveway. It's a bit more relaxed.
Yeah. But you're holding nobody up basically as well.
Yeah.
No.
Keeping in with the neighbours.
So the beauty of it here is the cars can see the cows coming from the other way.
Yeah.
So you're never going to get a collision. When we're bringing them back in the afternoon, you've got to have someone to cross them then because they can't see the cows coming in the traffic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, good for labour saving. Obviously, it's a big positive for that, and not holding cows up, getting cows lame.
Yeah, no, it's a big. We've only got 60 acres where I have to cross a roadway, so then I'll have to have a series of small paddocks around the parlour that I milk them into, and give them, say, 0.4 of a hectare to last them to the end of milking, and then move them on over the road at the end. And I'll try and get all those grazings done during the day in the week, and then the weekend you're not doing those road crossings then.
Obviously all the cows are kept in one big mob as well, so you don't really like holding full 500 on a feed pad to go. If you're smaller in size, you might change your idea, but yeah, I don't like holding that size anywhere.
No. And like I suppose your tracks lend to cows moving regularly,
Yeah.
not holding big bunches.
No, it's much better if they're moving slowly.
Just in terms of the signs there, we're looking at public footpaths. What's the reality of that for a farmer, you know?
It's something you have to work with. If you start falling out with these sort of people, walkers, you're going to cause yourself a lot of mither. So some of the styles we actually just went and installed ourselves to make it easier for them, and then you tend to get a lot less hassle then. If you wire up all your styles and what have you, then you're going to have no end of trouble.
So in reality, is it fair to say the public have the right to walk through the farm, have they?
Yeah, pretty good, because I met my wife on a footpath on this farm, so it's not bad.
Well, not to forget.
It's not all bad, yeah.
Yeah, good. But that, I suppose, look, people can walk through the farm, and that's a historical practice, is it?
Yeah,
going back a long time.
They're not massive. We're not massive footpaths. You know, we haven't got millions on the farm. There is only mainly 2 big routes. It's not a be all end all, and 2 of them are on tracks to make it a little bit easier as well.
Yeah. Quite a few of them will do like a free posts, so 2 posts and then a post in front in the middle. So a person can slip round, but a cow can't get through. Yeah. And then it's nothing for anyone to climb over then either, so it's easier for people with dogs. And
you see some of them on the other part of the farm, like.
Yeah. It's a reality of farms, farms in England, I would say. It's not as common in Ireland, but it's just a part of tradition here that it's a historical thing that was always there.
Mainly after COVID as well, didn't it? It just went.
During COVID, all of a sudden there's an explosion of people walking the farm, and there was a bit of policing for a month to say, come on, the cow track isn't a footpath, and people are normally pretty obliged. You know, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't realise that, and then it's fine, really. Yeah.
If we do a small geography lesson, what county are we based here?
Shropshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very close to Cheshire as well here, are we?
Very close to Cheshire. Okay. Not too far from Staffordshire. Yeah.
Right. That's a trig point over there, is it?
Highest point in the area. I don't know how far an area it is actually.
Yeah.
I don't actually know that.
Okay. So if we're looking over there, we're looking at Wales away?
Welsh Pool, obviously the mountains like Rodney's Pillar over there, Welsh Pool area, and then Shrewsbury more over that way.
Right, okay.
There's one for you there. That sleeper in the middle of the track there now has had to be put there for security purposes. We now find with theft on farm increasing now, people look on Google Earth and actually find a back route into the farm.
Okay.
So that's to stop a large pickup getting down the track at night, because we've actually come in the morning and found tracks coming into the back of the farm at the night.
We have had delivery men who, for some reason, Google Earth now qualifies this as a road, and it will send the delivery men down. Yeah. Even though it's been a field all its life and never registered as anything. Yeah, it's just.
Someone's going to have a sorry end on that on a dark night.
Yeah,
if they come in.
It's their fault, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a lot of damage will happen.
Yeah. We've now got an open gate policy. So for fert spreading, we don't have the road gates open, but for fert spreading now, all the back gates in the paddocks are open, paddock to paddock, so we can get round quicker with a fertiliser spreader. It was something a farm operated in New Zealand where I worked, so they could get round and move the irrigation lines quicker.
Yeah.
But it also means with the measuring now, I can get round the farm in an hour and 20 minutes as opposed to 2.5 hours.
Using a quad?
Using the quad, but I don't plate off the quad. I will get off in every paddock, plate a small area, and then get on the quad and move on to the next paddock with it. It's made things a lot quicker for me.
Okay. Instead of walking your farm conventionally?
I used to walk it completely, and it took a lot longer, and it was starting to wear the body out of it, walking that many acres all the time.
One of the only contractors we do is our own fert spinning. Everything else, we use a large locally contractor, and then we just do our own fert spinning because we follow the cows quite closely with that.
Okay.
So as I set a paddock up now, I do a lap anyway. So I just go and shut the gates in the back when we graze that paddock, and then as I measure or he fert spreads, they're left open and down again. Yeah. Apart from the road gates, but it means he can shift a lot of acres, 250, 300 acres in a day on the fert spinner then, because he's not on and off the machine all the time opening gates. Yeah.
What size or how much in an application per acre roughly of nitrogen? I mean, units wise?
About 32
30 to 40, isn't it?
Yeah, 30
Okay.
to 40, depending on the time.
Okay.
Well, hold about 2.5 tonne of product in the spinner at the time, so you can, good dosing.
Protected your ear a lot now.
Yeah.
Okay. GPS?
Yeah, GPS, just straight line, really.
Okay,
Yeah.
AB line, yeah.
I've been doing it long enough myself, so you learn the fields quite well.
It's wayside, isn't it, the spinners?
Yeah, wayside or operated as well for that side. So we're just looking at auto steer, but didn't quite work with the shape of the paddocks.
Yeah.
We used to have one of those foam blob markers.
Okay.
And you'd go in the field and there'd be this huge pile of foam. And my dad had just sat on the foam for half an hour and then moved on again. So.
All villages would soon ring in.
So he'd be, I've been working all today. And you go in the field, there's these huge piles of foam where he just sat.
No photos of that, have you? Is this your trig point anyway?
Yeah, I don't know what that number means on it. Yeah, I should know really.
I think GPS and modern satellite technology has probably dispensed with a lot of the need for this, but it was obviously very relevant once upon a time.
A lot of people visit it.
Yeah.
Like keen walker enthusiasts sort of people. You see them walking to it.
Yeah. So I think instruments would have been put on top of it, and they would have been looking at various other trig points around.
That's it.
And be able to map off that and reference.
Yeah.
So a lot of historical value there on that. And just a roll of the map, as I was saying, I came here probably 20 years ago to make the first map of the farm. But as the farm has expanded, so did the land holding and the need to remap a few different times. So
yeah.
What acres are you at here today?
So there's 620 on that map, 590 of it we're farming here, 590, 580. There's 35 acres. You'll see this smaller map here. You can see the red areas that are in stewardship schemes with the landlord or environmental schemes. And we initially had the 130 acres here, then we took on another 120 here, and then this big 400 come on here. We have the farm buildings up there just for dry stock. The landlord has separate ideas for the house and the existing brick buildings up there. The main milking setup is still here. You can see there's a lot of walking involved for the cows because the parlour isn't very central to the farm, but not a lot of road crossings, so it works well.
Yeah.
And then we've got two versions of the map. One with the buffers on, the 4 metre buffer strips that we talked about. So take this field for example, it's 10.45 hectares total, but with the buffer strips removed it's only 9.91. So when the contractors are mowing, we can work out what the actual mowing area is. Even though the field's 10.45 hectares, 25.82 acres, the mowing area is only actually 9.91.
Yeah.
So
it adds up and it makes a difference.
it adds up, yeah.
So what else would you use the map for on the farm?
Staff. It's very important for staff. They know exactly where the cows are and the cows are going. There's none of this confusion with field names. They're all numbered accordingly. Contractors, and they're just the detail on the map's important. The points of, if I did it myself, I might not be able to go to the detail of putting points of reference on, such as telegraph poles and pits and trees, and it helps people get the bearings when they're looking at the map. I mean, really, it wants updating and putting writing Ikefield there as the village. That's always a great point of reference. They know where they are, and you can see the roads, and it just makes management and running the farm so much easier on these grazing systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I suppose the land holding is predominantly from one large estate as such. It's belonging to one large estate.
Yes, most of it over here. There's one private landowner here.
Yeah.
And because he took large areas out, he wanted to grow some of the hedges bigger. It made some of the fields smaller. And because you come in as an independent and mapped it, there was no. You were impartial as such. So we knew the field sizes was correct, and he could go off then should he want to make fields smaller.
Yeah.
And it was all fairly done then. Yeah.
And I suppose it's the benefit of having the map on a computer system is, if you go 4, 5, 6 metre margin, you don't really have to map it again. You can just offset your lines.
No, it can all just be changed. Yeah.
So it's always relevant and stays up to date.
No, definitely.
Great.
It's brilliant piece of kit.
So Ben and Johnny, I suppose, like with many family farms, it's a challenge where maybe two people want to farm, and where the decision is made maybe that ideally there's one son at home. So you're on the lookout for another farm, another opportunity?
Yeah, definitely. We're well maxed out here, and this is turned into an engine house, a very profitable system. farm purchasing is maybe not quite on our list at the moment with interest rates or the amount of cash you need. And I had a bit experience down in banking in London, and we've been stashing cash or investing it outside of farming as well at the minute, but we are mainly looking for further farm tentures, and we've experienced working in a variety of tentures, but I think mainly looking forward into the future. It's like FBT and contract farming are the main ones that people are offering, isn't it? Yeah, and in terms of farming, we're very passionate about grass-based systems here, and whatever we take on will be on a grass-based system. And obviously our main motto for us here is like sustainable family farming. That's what we are massively about here, and mainly work with a lot of precision technologies and in terms of soil management and everything, but also make everything very efficient and transparent with a lifestyle involved. As you know, we're all quite keen rugby, and I think it was mentioned earlier, we finish at 5:15. We have lives outside of farming, and and obviously, as exampled through some of the other areas of the farm, we're big into wildlife and environmental schemes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I suppose this farm, Ben, I suppose it's the engine to drive for the next farm.
Yes.
And that's where it's using the combined efforts of both yourselves and your father, Richard.
At the minute, we can sweat it a bit harder because
Yeah.
there's a wealth of management here to run it, to then power for the next unit, which is looking like my brother's going to go to at the minute, but it's not set in stone.
Yeah.
The goalposts change all the time. Yeah.
I've had a lot of experience setting this one up and almost like fine-tuning it, so we've learnt a lot on that way, and it's also got a wide range of skills between us.
Yeah.
And ready for the next one.
Do a bit of a big bang on the next one now, where we can go straight in and just put it all in on day one, parlour fences, tracks, whereas this business had to grow slowly as the cash become available.
Yes.
Because we didn't have the backing of the banks when we first originally,
Yeah.
when we were milking 50 cows, and we didn't have a lot of asset to borrow
Yes.
against.
Yes.
We didn't have the output from the business to borrow the money.
Yes.
So it all had to be done slowly. A lot of the fencing was done ourselves, the water was done ourselves, the sheds, we'd had a bit on here, a bit on here, cash flow, a lot of it. Whereas now we could go in on day one and set a unit up much more easily now.
Yeah. So you're obviously both well travelled. You've seen different things, and you've had a career outside of farming, and you know what you need or would like, I suppose.
Yeah, no, definitely what we're looking for now. I think in terms of farming, it's a grass-based system. Whether it's spring, autumn, that is at the heart. We've learned from farming, not criticising hostings all year round. It just didn't work for us, and we found a way to our set of skills. It works very well on this side. It's also when we expanded, we learnt what our skills are and know how to utilise them a lot better now.
Yeah.
This system required a much lower capital expenditure to get us up to where we needed to be. So it suited us in that respect, and it didn't require a huge capital outlay on tenanted land. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, which suits us, and in a lot of cases suits landlords. They get a bit nervous about large sums of money being spent on their land that they then may have to pay you out on.
Yeah.
So they're more comfortable with a few tracks and sleepers a lot of the time.
Yes.
The beauty of this system, the appreciation isn't massive on this farm at all. So in terms of having another unit, we know this one is behind, and it's here for quite a long time before it needs a lot of money spending on it.
Yeah.
So it's perfect to go into another unit for us. And obviously we work very well together and get along, and so it works well for the future going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose for our landowners, you've proven that you can work with the environment as well, and it's a bit of a balance. Both can
used
sit together well.
schemes, you know what I mean, all over. But it is it's almost the best word for it, sustainable. You know what I mean. We also want to leave something behind, and we don't want to just come in and make a load of money and wreck it. There is a lifestyle and a passion about us here.
Yes.
So.
Yes, very good.